What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How you doing out there? Welcome back to another episode of Pepe's Point of View. I'm your favorite host, your favorite R&B historian, your favorite music critic, Pepe. And let's just hop right into it, shall we? Go ahead on, sit back and relax because we're talking about the Isley brothers, ladies and gentlemen. And we're talking about the album Smooth Sailing. Introduction: a cassette and a lesson. I first met the excuse me. I first met the Isley brothers when I was about 8 years old. Not in person, of course, but through the worn cassette tapes my mother kept in her bedroom and her car. Greatest Hits Volume 1 and Between the Sheets. I played them on her tape deck whenever I got the chance. Sometimes I sneak her car keys just to sit in the front seat and let Ronald Isley's voice pour through the speakers. Those songs were more than background music. They were the first chapters of a lifelong relationship I would come to have with music itself. From those tapes, I learned three important lessons. The first was that some songs had a part one and a part two, something that puzzled me at the time. I remember thinking, if they didn't have so many versions, there'd be room for more songs. What I didn't realize was that these songs were too full, too rich to be confined to a single track. The Isleys didn't just play music, they let it breathe, groove, and stretch across both sides of a cassette. The second lesson came with a few more consequences. If I sat in the car too long with the radio on, I'd drain the battery. My mother would fuzz, turn the engine over with a sigh, and remind me to turn off the radio next time. But of course, I had to try it myself, pretending to be grown, turning the key and hoping for the engine to rumble. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Either way, the music was worth the risk. The third lesson was one of heartbreaking redemption. I remember the panic I felt when I got her tape stuck in the radio. My heart sank. I had ruined the Isley brothers. But then my mother did something amazing. She took the cassette out, rewound it carefully, and saved it. The music played again. Though one of the songs was warped, a permanent reminder of my mistake. That was the moment I learned to treat music with care and respect. And when I started building my own collection a few years later, I handled each tape like a treasure. A vocal coach in disguise. As I listened more, something deeper started to take hold. Ronald's voice wasn't just smooth, it was expressive in ways I didn't know a voice could be. I didn't realize it at the time, but he was becoming my vocal coach. I began to mimic his falsetto, playing with the edges of my own voice, learning how to be soft and tender one moment, then raw and urgent the next. I didn't want to sing like anyone else. Ronald was enough. He taught me that vulnerability and power could exist in the same breath. That soul wasn't just about sound, it was about feeling. His voice on tracks like Live It Up made me feel bold and rebellious, like I could speak my mind. Then on For the Love of You, he smoothed it all out and showed me the beauty in restraint and longing. Each song became a lesson, each cassette a classroom. The ride that carried more than miles. By the time I was 10, my weekends had a rhythm of their own. On Fridays, my mother would pile us into the car to visit our great aunts and uncles in the countryside. That trip, like clockwork, always had a soundtrack. The Isley brothers were constant, but there were others too. Stephanie Mills sang I Feel Good All Over, and Prince, ever the romantic, whispered his way through a door. But Smooth Sailing was the eyes by the Isleys was different. It was the first time I listened to a full album front to back. I didn't know what to expect. I was only 10, but I knew something had shifted. The music was deeper, heavier. It didn't just make me want to sing, it made me want to understand. A funeral in harmony, a window in sound. What I didn't fully understand at the time was that Smooth Sailing wasn't just another Isley Brothers project. It was a dedication, a homegoing, a funeral ceremony in sound for their brother and bandmate, O'Kelly Isley, who had passed away the year before. This album wasn't about chasing another chart topping single, it was a way of grieving and also of healing. Songs like Everything Is All Right, It Takes a Good Woman, Send a Message, Somebody I Used to Know, I Wish, and Smooth Sailing Tonight became spiritual messages to me. They reminded me that God never closes a door without opening a window. That window, though I didn't know her name at first, was Angela Wimbush. She stepped in with a pen that was both sensual and sacred, bringing not only her new energy to the group, but a kind of emotional balm. Angela didn't try to replace anyone. She held space for the grief and let the music speak from a place of reverence. She brought out something eternal in Ronald's voice, something bruised but still beautiful. Through her songwriting, her harmonies, her production, she helped the brothers turn sorrow into sound and reflection into celebration. The album showed me that it the album showed me what it means to create in the midst of pain. It reminded me what really matters: God's love for his people and his commandment that we love one another. It wasn't about gold records, it was about spiritual resonance. A lasting legacy. Those cassettes taught me how to treat music with care, how to rewind when things got tangled, how to hold on to what matters. They taught me that music is fragile but also forgiving, just like memory. I carried that respect into my own collection and eventually into my own voice. Even now, when I hear a falsetto done right, or when a song takes its time to tell the whole story, part one and part two, I think of Ronald. I think of the back seat of my mother's car, the countryside winding past the windows, and the feeling that I was hearing something eternal. Just the Isley Brothers wasn't just my introduction to music. They were the foundation of how I came to love it, how I learned to protect it, and how I started to sing. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but hey, I'm recording in my office. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Isley Brothers album, the Smooth Selling album. And I tell you, that album, uh, as I said, I remember it just being in the household. Um, as a matter of fact, I don't even remember the jewel case. I just remember just that cassette tape being there and just hearing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it was one of those cassettes that I just had to play over and over again. And at the time, you know, it's just it's coincidental, I guess you could say, that album, uh, Smooth Sailing, is the first album I can recall hearing from beginning to the end. But my first album that I purchased, and I'm talking about the jewel case, the whole nine, all of that stuff, would actually be Angela Wimbush's The Real Thing. So it's kind of like this connection that just continued to take place unbeknownst to me, and how I was just kind of drawn into the sounds of Angela Wimbush. But anyway, you guys already know that I'm a fan of her music, so it is what it is. Anyway, if you reach this point in my commentary, I think that it's only appropriate for me to ask you to hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button, and leave a comment. Not only that, I'm leaving a link to my website down below. I've started the website up, and so you can click on that to just get more things. I do promise you, there's more to come. You just got to hold on because there's more to come. And my motto over here is very simple: put your behind where your heart desires to be. And whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says to me, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. I love you guys out there. Remember to take care of yourselves. All right. See you next video.